Okay, let's get started. Let's recollect the things that we have covered in the last class. We have covered a couple of derivations in the last class. Just have a look. This first one we started with voltage series. Okay, so feedback amplifier. Next we started with series feedback amplifier, which is nothing but a transconductance amplifier. For both the type of amplifiers, we have derived an expression for an input impedance, okay, and output impedance, both expressions. And we have showed that for voltage series amplifier, the input impedance increases with feedback, output impedance decreases with feedback. And with reference to the transconductance amplifier also, input impedance, as you are seeing in the expression, the input impedance increases with feedback, and corresponding output resistance or output impedance also increases with feedback. So you can see here the term, there is 1 plus beta A, which is in the numerator, okay, and it gets multiplied with factor called R naught. So therefore ROF, which is nothing but output impedance with feedback, increases with without okay, the feedback, okay, as compared to without feedback, the output impedance with feedback keeps increasing. Okay, all right. With that, any questions related to these topics that we have covered in the previous class? I hope you have understood the topic what we have covered in the previous class. In today's class, let's look into the other two types of feedback amplifiers, namely shunt feedback amplifier, as you are seeing here. This is um, shunt feedback type of amplifier, and other one is shunt series feedback amplifier. Okay, so these are the two amplifiers which we need to discuss in today's class. These topics are the last part of this chapter. So once we have done with these two topics, we will move on to the output stages and power amplifier chapter, which is also important from examination point of view. Okay, let's see this amplifier as shunt feedback topology, and is an ideal structure of shunt feedback amplifier. Okay, the reason why it is called a shunt means it is the alternative name for parallel is nothing but shunt. Okay, so this is a parallel. As you can see in the sampling network, which is we are taking sample of output voltage which is in shunt parallel to the output voltage, and also see the type of mixing that is happening here. So mixing is also done in a shunt fashion, okay, parallel fashion here. So there is a shunt kind of sampling and shunt kind of mixing, parallel mixing, which get mixed with the input current. Therefore this type of feedback topology is also called as shunt feedback topology. The rest of the circuit remains same. As you are seeing here, there is a circuit which is basic amplifier circuit, and there is a beta circuit. As you can see, this is the feedback network. We have just indicated those two things, those two circuits with a box here. Okay, one of them we are calling as A circuit, other one is going to be the beta circuit here. And apart from that, there is a sampling which is taken in parallel fashion or shunt fashion, mixing that happens in a series fashion. And remaining notations are like, there is a source current which we have indicated as Is, and Ii and Vi, they are namely the input to the amplifier block. Okay, so here we are not showing detailed circuit of an amplifier, we just represent here with the equivalent circuit of an amplifier. The equivalent circuit of an amplifier comprises an input resistance Ri, and there is a voltage source here. Okay, so as you can see here, there is a times Ii, and there is an output resistance here labeled as R naught here. So these three component forms a basic amplifier stage. Okay, and if you look at feedback network here, the feedback network, as you can see, there is an open circuit at the input side of the feedback network, and there is a voltage source here, which is beta times V naught. That is the current source, not an voltage source. This is a current source, which is beta times V naught. That is the magnitude of current that is coming here and goes back to the amplifier input stage. This current gets mixed up with, in this case, IF is equal to beta V naught. That gets mixed up with the source current IS here, and that gets applied to the amplifier input, which is IA. Okay, so these are the various things which one need to understand with reference to shunt feedback amplifier. So this is an ideal structure, as we have mentioned here, and with this ideal structure we will move on to the derivation of input impedance and output impedance. So when we look at here, you can measure the output impedance. So this is ROF. When we look at the input terminals, which is shown here as X, and this point here, so when we see here, that gives us the input impedance, which is RIF here. So we need to derive an expression for RIF, input resistance with feedback, ROF, which is output resistance with feedback. So this is an ideal structure. We are going to consider that. We can also make this circuit, this complex circuit, into simpler form. As you can see here, this is continuation of that. You can see here, which is not shown here somehow, as we have discussed in the last class. As you can see, I showed that how we can simplify that block, as you can see here, this way. The ideal structure here that we have shown, this big structure here, that can be simplified to the block like this. And similar lines you can also apply for the shunt network. Yeah? So this is a shunt feedback amplifier network, and that can be simplified even by with a equivalent circuit also. Okay, since we have shown for previous circuits, here it is not required to show those things here. So this is a feedback amplifier, as you can see here. Okay, so this is shunt feedback amplifier. Let us say this is a shunt feedback amplifier. Looking at this point, we get an input resistance RIF, and here we can measure the output resistance RYF. Okay, the details of the circuit are explained here. You can see the figure A shows the ideal structure of shunt feedback amplifier, as we have seen just now. If required, you can write the simplified equivalent circuit, otherwise you can skip it. And the ideal structure comprises an amplifier circuit, which in turn has got three elements: input resistance, trans resistance, output resistance. So here the amplifier type is a trans resistance amplifier here. As you can see, we are sampling the output voltage and we are going to mix with the input current here. So voltage is the output signal and input signal is going to be the current signal. So we can easily understand what type of amplifier it is. So output is a voltage here and input is a current signal. Therefore, the type of amplifier is trans resistance amplifier. So the shunt amplifier is also called as trans resistance amplifier. So here the basic amplifier type, which we have shown with A, is nothing but the trans resistance amplifier. And another block in the ideal structure is the beta circuit. So beta circuit is nothing but it is a voltage controlled current source. So this is VCCS. Okay, so that is a type of kind of modeling we can represent this, the beta circuit here. So beta is a transconductance in this case here. So because as you can see in the block diagram here, it is a input is going to be the voltage. This is the input side, which is a voltage, which because we are sampling here the voltage, the same voltage is given as an input to the feedback circuit here, and output is going to be the current here. So current by voltage, what kind of network it is? Output is current and input is a voltage. So therefore this is going to be a transconductance network. So the feedback network is a transconductance network, whereas the basic amplifier circuit is a trans resistance amplifier. You must know these things which are important here. So this is trans resistance. So this is going to be transconductance kind of amplifier. Okay. Based on input and output, we can decide whether what type of amplifier it is, whether it's a trans resistance or trans conductance here. In this case, since amplifier output is a voltage signal and input is going to be the current signal, output by input is nothing but it is a resistance. So this type of amplifier is trans resistance amplifier. Whereas here, the sampled signal is applied as an input. So input is a voltage here. So this forms an input for the this type of an amplifier, and this is going to be the output. So output is current and input is a voltage. So current by voltage, that gives you the conductance. So this is a feedback network is of transconductance type of feedback network, which you can see here. That's why it is a beta is a transconductance. Now let us go for the derivation of RIF and ROF. Okay, so the closed loop gain or gain with feedback is defined as the ratio of output voltage V naught and the input current IS. So this is the definition for closed loop gain, which is shown as AF. AF is nothing but it's a closed loop gain. As per the definition, the output by input. So in a shunt feedback amplifier, output is going to be the voltage and input is going to be the current source. So therefore, V naught by IS is nothing but it is a closed loop gain or gain with feedback. And here we are not going to derive the expression for the AF, since we have shown here definition and directly we are writing the expression for AF. So AF can be written as A divided by 1 plus A beta. See, this gain you are derived for one time in the beginning, and later we are using this gain equation in all the type of feedback circuits here. So gain equation is also an important. The gain equation AF, gain with feedback, shows that it is less compared to without feedback. A is nothing but it is an open loop gain. AF is nothing but which is the closed loop gain. When we compare AF and A, okay, we can see that here AF is less than, I'm sorry, this is A, not AF. So this is AF and A. When we compare, AF is less than the A. A is nothing but it is a basic amplifier. In our case, it is a trans resistance amplifier without feedback. So gain of the trans resistance amplifier with feedback. So when we compare gain with feedback and without feedback, with feedback the gain is less because there is a factor of 1 plus A beta. 1 plus A beta is also called as amount of feedback. This is nothing but tells you amount of feedback. So the gain with feedback reduces by an amount of feedback when we compare with open loop amplifier. Now to derive an expression for the input resistance RIF, let us apply Kirchhoff current law at node X. Okay, you can see the node X in the circuit which we have already defined. Let me take you to the node X. So here we have node X here. I hope you are seeing this node X. At this particular point, you can apply Kirchhoff current law and identify the currents that are entering and currents that are leaving this particular node. Current that enters this node is one is IS. Here I am marking IS. And the current that are leaving are nothing but II is the current that is going to the trans resistance amplifier. IF is nothing but that's going to the feedback network here. So therefore, these two currents are leaving II and IF, and current that enters this node X is IS. So from here we can write straight away that IS, which is an incoming current, will be equivalent to the outgoing current, which is II, plus the feedback current, which is IF. So this is by applying Kirchhoff current law at node X. Okay, let's go back to our derivation. As you can see here, so same equation we are seeing here. IS is equal to II plus IF. And now let us substitute for IF. IF is nothing but it is beta times V naught. We know the expression for IF. Okay, so IF is nothing but the feedback current which is given by beta times V naught. And now this equation can be rewritten as IS is equal to II plus beta times V naught. And what is V naught? Okay, so look at here basic amplifier gain. Okay, A is nothing but this gain. Okay, V naught by this input current, because this is going to be a trans resistance amplifier. Therefore, the A is nothing but which is V naught output voltage by the input current. Okay, so how can we write that? Okay, I'll write it here for your reference. uh, Basic amplifier gain, A is nothing but output is a voltage and input is going to be the current. When we cross multiply that, we can write V naught as A times II. Now this can be substituted here for V naught. So V naught is nothing but this V naught is A times II. After substituting, the resulting equation is as shown here, and we can take out II as a common factor from the first and the second term. So after taking II as a common factor, the remaining terms are written within the bracket, which is 1 plus beta A. So we got finally the equation 3 as Is is equal to Ia into 1 plus beta A. Okay, so now let us see the definition of RIF. What is RIF? Okay, so RIF is nothing but input resistance with feedback, which is given by Vi by Is. Okay, you may ask a question here, how do we get this? Just go back to the circuit and you can easily see that what is our RIF. RIF. So RIF is nothing but it is a resistance. Resistance is nothing but voltage by current. So here where we are measuring this RIF, it's between this Vi, this is the input voltage, and current which is coming is nothing but Is. So therefore RIF is nothing but from definition point of view, which is Vi divided by Is. That is the definition of RIF. Now we'll back to the circuit. So RIF is nothing but Vi by Is. Now we know this Is equation, which is already derived here from equation 3. So now we can substitute equation 3 in equation 4, that is definition, and let us see what is the resulting equation. RIF equals Vi is nothing but written as it is, and in place of Is we have Ia into 1 plus beta A, and see here there is a ratio of Vi by Ia that can be written as Ri. Okay, Ri is nothing but it is an input resistance without feedback. So therefore we got a final expression as RIF as Ri divided by 1 plus beta A. What this shows here? So left hand side we have an input resistance with feedback, on right hand side we have an Ri. There is no subscript here F. That means this is an input resistance without feedback. So when we compare RIF and Ri, what we can say? Which one is larger among these two things? Or let me ask a question indirectly, which one is smaller among these two things? So due to the term here 1 plus beta A in the denominator, as you can see, so RIF is smaller. That means in this circuit, in this type of feedback topology, what is that feedback topology we are discussing? It is shunt. What is the alternative name for this topology? It is trans resistance amplifier. In a trans resistance amplifier, input impedance with feedback is less or decreases by the factor 1 plus beta A. This amount of input impedance decreases when we connect a feedback. So when you compare this RIF and RI, RIF is less compared to RI here. That's what we have proved here. Okay. So in this circuit, input impedance decreases with feedback. And let's apply the same procedure what we have done for other circuits to measure output resistance, ROF. We know the procedure to measure output resistance, right? We need to extract the output circuit from the equivalent circuit. Let me show to you which part we are extracting here. Look at this. This part we are extracting. I'll just highlight with different colors so that you can easily understand which part we are extracting. We are interested in measuring ROF. So to derive an expression for this, we may have to extract circuit which is relevant to this ROF. So this part of circuit we are extracting here. You can see here this part of circuit we are extracting. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, whenever we measure output resistance, the influence of input signal must not be there. We must make IS as 0. I repeat once again the procedure to measure the output resistance. This is common for all the circuits. Okay, this we mentioned, even we have used this in earlier okay, so examples also, earlier circuits also, same thing I am reiterating here. So to measure the output resistance with feedback, just we are extracting the output part of the circuit, and then later we are going to make IS as 0. In this case it is IS because you can see that input signal itself is IS. So the influence of IS should not be there while measuring the output resistance here. And also we connect here the temporary voltage source called as a test voltage here, okay, which you can label it as V naught, or simply we can label it as V. Why we need this test voltage here? Because see, we are measuring an impedance here or resistance here. The voltage by current, that gives you the resistance here. Therefore we should have some test voltage here. We know what amount of voltage we apply here and what is the net current that results here in this loop. So based on that we can measure the output resistance ROA. Reason is, this experiment is very simple. It assumes that the inputs signal current is taken as 0. So with that kind of the procedure, let me move on to the circuit once again, where we have extracted this just an output part, you can see here. So to measure the output resistance, this is the experimental setup as you are seeing here. We have extracted output part of the circuit, and we have connected here the test voltage, which is nothing but labeled as V. So this is nothing but a test voltage. The voltage required only here to measure the output resistance here. And also, as I mentioned, that we must assume IS as 0. So there should not be any input signal current flowing in the circuit here. Now with that we can apply KVL for this loop shown here. Okay, what is the resulting equation? Let me start with this V minus V. This is the current due to the test voltage that is applied here, which is I. So I times R naught, that is the voltage drop across R naught. Okay, so this is the voltage drop across R naught, and this is the voltage which is across this V here, which is nothing but A times II. So now we can simplify this one. Okay, so I can just write here I, okay, which is equivalent to V times AI, V minus AI divided by which is R naught here. This is on simplification, we'll get this equation. Let us call this equation as equation 5. So we already have this equation, IS is equal to IA plus IF. When we apply Kirchhoff current law to the ideal structure, we got this equation. Now since in this output resistance measurement, we are supposed to make IS as 0, as you can see here. Once you make IS as 0, you get you will have to retain only this II plus IF. So this can be written as IA is equal to minus IF, or IA is equal to minus beta times V naught. But here it is V only, it is not V naught. So therefore this V naught can be written as V. So the final expression for IA is nothing but minus beta times V. So we have IA here, this can be substituted with minus beta times the test voltage V. After doing that, you can see the resulting equation which is here. So you can see minus and minus becomes plus here, which is V plus A beta times V divided by, there is R naught which is retained here, and V can be taken as common factor from the first and the second term, and we have retained only 1 plus beta A, and now see here V by R naught. Okay, so V you can take it to the left hand side, which you can get as or you can make this equation in terms of V by I. Okay, so that gives me the ROF. Okay, so V by I is nothing but ROF. So ROF is nothing but which is V by I, which is equivalent to what? Right hand side you can see that R naught divided by 1 plus beta E. Now this expression shows that output resistance with feedback decreases by an amount of 1 plus beta E. Input impedance also decreased, output resistance is also decreasing, because if you observe this expressions here, So the output impedance also decreases, input impedance decreases. That is with reference to the trans resistance amplifier or shunt feedback amplifier. Okay, the last amplifier which is and which we need to discuss here in this class is the shunt series configuration. As you can see here, this is the shunt series configuration. Okay. This is an A circuit once again. This is a total circuit is an ideal structure of shunt series feedback amplifier, which comprises again A circuit. Here we have an A circuit. There is a beta circuit here, and input you can see there is a current signal here, and output you can see there is a voltage signal here, and the impedance that we need to measure here is ROF and RIF. Okay, so this is an ideal structure of shunt series feedback amplifier. The explanation is given here. You can see the gain of an amplifier is I naught by Is. So I naught is nothing but output current here, and Is is nothing but the input current here. So this ratio of I naught by Is is nothing but gain A divided by 1 plus A beta. Okay. So this is a shunt series feedback amplifier. Okay. Next is the input resistance expression here. This is again very simple expression. We'll go by definition, which is RIF is equal to VI by IS. Okay, so this is the input resistance. At the input of an amplifier, we have an VI, and the input there is a current which is IS. And we already know by applying KCL previously, we got this equation IS is equal to IA plus IF. It is same as the previous circuit only. And IF is nothing but in this case it is beta times I naught. Okay, so you can see now here, and this can be written as IA equals II plus beta times A times I naught can be substituted as beta time A times II. So this is nothing but A times II. This is after substituting for I naught, which is here. Okay, this can be simplified further by taking IA as a common factor. So IA is nothing but 1 plus beta A, which is equal to IS. So let us call this as equation 4. This 4 can be substituted in equation 2 for IS. So you get RIF as final equation is once we make VI by RI as RI, and RI this after substituting we will say here we have 1 plus 1 by 1 plus A beta, 1 divided by 1 plus A beta. So the final expression for RIF is RI divided by 1 plus beta A. Here also input resistance decreases with feedback by an amount of 1 plus beta A. And again see same experimental setup, but here you can see the input here is the output part. When we extract here, we have a current source here, there is output resistance here, and there is a temporary voltage source, and that is giving a current as I here. So as per the definition, ROF is nothing but V by I naught here, and here for this circuit it can be written as V by I. The ratio of these two gives you the output resistance here. So now you can apply KCL at node Y. You get it here as I, which is nothing but incoming current, and outgoing current is nothing but A times one current is leaving is A times II, and current that is going through R naught is IR naught. So IR naught can be written as V by R naught, as you can see here, and this can be further simplified. V by R naught is kept as it is, and IA can be substituted, as you can see here. I've done some small changes after substituting IS as 0. So IA is nothing but which is minus beta times I naught, that can be substituted here, this part here. This I have taken as second term here, and this I made it as a first term here. So final equation for I is nothing but V by R naught minus A beta times I. So this A beta times I can be taken to the other side. So you get V by R naught as I into 1 plus beta A. So what is V by R naught? So here you can see that V by I can be written as ROF, and R naught can be transferred to the right hand side, and finally we get an expression as ROF is equal to R naught into 1 plus beta A. So this shows that output resistance with feedback increases by an amount of 1 plus beta A, because 1 plus beta A is present in the numerator here. So in this case we have seen that input resistance decreases, output resistance increases for the this type of amplifier. The amplifier type is shunt series kind of feedback amplifier. So this completes all the derivations for 4 different types of feedback amplifiers. I strongly suggest to students to practice all these derivations. What is important here is the in all these 4 circuits we have derived RIF and ROF expressions. The circuit is important, and the gains here is important, and finally the way we derive expression for RIF and ROF is very important. Practice these circuits, these derivations here, so that without any uh, mistakes you can easily do derivations in examinations. Okay, so that's all for this feedback amplifiers. I hope this is the time to wrap up this feedback amplifier circuits, and we'll move on to the other circuits of this module, which is nothing but output stages and power amplifier. If any questions are there, you are welcome, and I would like to answer them. Are there any questions related to the feedback? The material and few videos has to be uploaded in the YouTube. That will be done by end of the day, and material is already there on the Google Classroom. Students can download or take a printout of this. Okay, I strongly suggest to even read from the textbook first. Straight away reading from the notes is not good. Read the textbook and update, if any information or any details which are left out here, and then prepare your own notes which contains all the necessary details from that particular topic here. Okay, then repeatedly studying notes would be better, but first time I suggest the students to go through the textbook. As you all know that Cedra Smith is 6th edition is the textbook required for this course. 90% of the syllabus is covered from the textbook only, so students should have a soft copy of the textbook at least. If you have a hard copy, it is very good again. So all these derivations are discussed in more detail from the textbook also. Okay. Okay, if there are any questions, you are welcome. Um, Glad to answer your doubts or queries. I hope you have followed all the derivations that we have covered here. Okay, so next we'll move on to the, if there are no doubts, let me move on to the next chapter of the same module, module 3, okay, which is nothing but output stages and power amplifiers. I will come across power amplifiers in any course, in either in basic electronics or in any other course. If not, nothing to worry, because power amplifier is one of the important uh, topic that is required here to discuss. And why we are discussing only the output stages here? Okay, because in an amplifier, when I say amplifier is not a one stage. If the common emitter amplifier that we have discussed in the module 1, or in common source amplifier that we have discussed in module 2, that can be represented with a block diagram like this. Okay, this can be either a CS amplifier or it can be C amplifier. Since this is one stage, single stage, okay, let us call this as a stage 1. What do you mean by stage? One stage will have one transistor and the biasing circuit, and all the required elements of amplifier will be there in one stage. Okay, and like this, when you want to achieve large uh, voltage here or gain here for the amplifier, suppose if I call this as a voltage amplifier VA, output will be the voltage signal, amplified signal, and input will be the small signal Vs. Okay, so the amplifier gain G is nothing but which is V naught by Vs. This gain is not large when we see a single stage. Gain is very small. You also know that in either if you use a CS or C amplifier, usual gain is going to be which will be 20, 30, something like that. Okay, so when we want to have a higher gains, then in such case we may have to cascade this. Cascade means output of this stage will be connected to the input of the next stage. We will have identical stages like this. Okay, this may be the stage 2. Okay, same circuit whatever you see in the stage 1, it is replicated for stage 2. Like this, if you want to have the 10 stages or 20 stages, we can use in an amplifier. Why we need more number of stages? Because gain provided by a single stage or one stage is not sufficient to drive a loudspeakers. If I'm using this to amplify an audio signal here, when you apply a weak audio signal here at the input here, okay, so here if I provide the output to a speaker, okay, if I provide an output to a loudspeaker here, then this signal which is coming out from the single stage is going to be very, very small. The small signal, amplified signal here, as I told you, it may be to say 20, 30, that's the magnitude of amplification that happens in amplifier like C or CS. The amplified signal is not sufficient here to drive this loudspeaker here. So this is a loudspeaker. We should have a sufficient signal here after amplification that should drive the loudspeaker here. Okay, so since one stage is not sufficient here, we may have to cascade this in more number of stages. Probably if you look at any public address system, okay, in that you will see the hundreds of thousands of stages are cascaded like this. Okay, you might have seen this in orchestras, where um, the, there's a large audio signal we need to produce. In such cases, we may have more number of stages here. That's the importance of output stage. Now all these stages we may use small signal amplifiers. These are all small signal amplifiers. But last one, but before, we are using a power amplifier. Power amplifiers handles very large signals. Okay, as we cascade more number of amplifiers here, each and every stage after the output of at the output of each and every stage, you can see that signal keeps increasing. Okay, when signal keeps increasing, we at some point we may not be able to use this small signal amplifiers as we have shown, because small signal amplifiers, as I have shown here, this cannot handle large signals. So we must have a new or separate amplifier that handles large signal. That is nothing but a power amplifier. Okay, so with this background, let me discuss various topics that we are discussing in this chapter. First, we'll start with an introduction by explaining you the importance of small signal amplifier and the power amplifier. Why we need small signal amplifier? Amplifiers can be classified into two types. In fact, one is a small signal amplifier. The word itself tells that this amplifier takes input as small signal and provides output in terms of volts. The other category of amplifier is a large signal amplifier, which is nothing but a power amplifier. So this large signal amplifier can also be called as power amplifier. The word itself tells that the large signal amplifier handles signals that are of large value. Here the small signal is the input that we provide here is going to be millivolts, and output is going to be in terms of volts. So this is the type of signals that we use in small signal amplifiers. Whereas in large signal amplifier or power amplifier, inputs is going to be few volts, 20 volts, 30 volts. That is the range, that's the type of input signal we are applying for the power amplifier. Okay, and this can drive easily the loudspeaker, which requires large signal here. Large current signal swing is required to drive the signal. So we'll discuss that in the introductory section here. So next we'll have a classification of output stages and look at these topics we are going to discuss in this chapter. Class A output stage. These are the classification of power amplifiers, class A, class B, and later we are going to see transfer characteristics of power amplifier, power dissipation. Power dissipation plays a very important role. It is not like a small signal amplifier. Though in small signal amplifier, power dissipation is not at all a concern, whereas in power amplifier, power dissipation plays an important role. Huge power is going to be generated and it gets dissipated in the power amplifier. So here an ordinary transistor is not sufficient to remove the excess heat. We must use power transistors. A transistor with heat sinks Okay, a transistors with the completely thermally it should be stable. Such kind of transistors we use in power amplifiers. And we'll also measure power conversion efficiency in the power amplifiers. And lastly, we are going to discuss class AB output stage amplifier or power amplifier, class C tuned amplifier. With these topics, this chapter, is going to end, and all these topics are important, and students should focus on each one of these topics, okay, from examination point of view. Now let us move on to the introductory section here. In this diagram, you can see here, I have shown here each stage of an amplifier with a box here. This is going to be one stage here. This is a one stage of small signal amplifier. Another stage of small signal amplifier. All these stages are cascaded. That means output of the first stage is given as an input for the second stage. Like this, if you proceed, what happens here? So obviously the output signal of first stage is larger, output signal of second stage becomes much more larger, third stage becomes larger. Assume that I am using here the 20 stages here. Obviously the 20th stage amplifier output is going to be larger. Okay, so now when I say larger here, the ordinary voltage small signal amplifiers may not be sufficient in the last stage. We must use a new type of amplifiers called as power amplifiers. So the word itself tells you that it is a power amplifier, the amplifiers which amplifies the power. Whereas here previous stages what you have seen is amplifier that amplifies the voltage. All these amplifiers are voltage amplifier. But last stage is going to be the power amplifier. So we are interested in power, amplifying the power that can easily drive the speaker. Okay, when I say power, it includes both voltage and current. So we should see the rating at which my loudspeaker will operate, and based on that I must here design a power amplifier. Here I can't use ordinary voltage amplifier as a last stage of this communication system. It fails because voltage amplifier cannot handle large voltage signals and current signals here. So we need to use here a separate or dedicated amplifier called as a power amplifier. Okay, and any signal, now you can see when the speaker speaks here using a microphone here, and the signal goes through many small signal amplifier stages, and finally it comes to the power amplifier, and here the signal levels will be boosted such a way that it is compatible with the loudspeaker, and so that it can produce sound, large sound here, equivalent to that of the human voice what we are given as an input here. This is the block diagram of a public address system or amplifying system which you see everywhere. Okay, and this basically public address system is nothing but it is it contains multiple amplifier stages, so it can be seen as a multi-stage amplifier. See, you can see here there's various stages of small signal amplifiers. It can be seen like a multi-stage amplifier because there are various more number of stages which you see here. This kind of amplifier accepts input signal from a human speaker using this through a microphone, and it is given to the loudspeaker at the output stage as you see here using the power amplifier here. So here in this particular chapter we are interested mainly in this power amplifier, and you should know here prior to this what kind of signals you get it. Obviously this is a large signal which is coming out of various cascaded amplifier stage. This dot shows that there are multiple stages here, and that's again boosted here and given as an input to the loudspeaker. So our interest is power amplifier here. Okay, so we'll move on to the other points here. So the intermediate stages, you can see that signal gets boosted up, and small signal voltage amplifiers increases the strength of a signal, and finally the last stage is given to the loudspeaker here, which can easily deliver the load AC power to the loudspeaker here. And look at here, the last stage, it has to satisfy certain properties. It should have a large voltage, it should handle a large voltage, and also it should handle a large current swing. I hope everybody is familiar with current swing or voltage swing. The swing means it is a peak to peak value. If I assume this is my AC signal, this is a swing, peak to peak value. Swing is very important. The upper part is called positive, peak is called positive, portion is called positive swing, negative swing. The signal that goes to the loudspeaker should have both positive and negative swing. And obviously, if it is a power amplifier, the swing will be larger in terms of volts, few volts. It's not like a swing what you see at the output of small signal amplifier. So what is the main aim of the power amplifier? It has to develop a power which is sufficient to drive the loudspeaker, and also need not be always loudspeaker, though uh, uh, in this chapter we always use the power amplifier to drive the loudspeaker. This can also be used to even drive the servo motors also, which you might have seen already in the control systems, servo motors. Okay, a PID based systems you might have seen there in the control system. Okay, so the amplifier that handle large signals is also called as large signal amplifiers or power amplifier. The alternative name for this power amplifier is a large signal amplifier, or sometimes we call equivalently large signal amplifier also as a power amplifier. Okay, what are the different applications of power amplifiers? Power amplifiers are used in public address system. Just now you have seen the example. And it's also used in radio receivers, servo motors, especially to operate mechanical systems. Electronically, we need to have a servo motors. Industrial control systems, we need to control the systems, especially in industries for different applications. In such cases, we can employ power amplifiers. Tape players, you might have seen in your home, the tape players, even that also uses power amplifiers as the output stage. TV receivers, cathode ray tubes, these are all the the devices, equipments which handles the large signals here. So here in this, all these systems that I've shown, small signals are not sufficient. We need to use power amplifier. Okay. I have a few things to say about what are the important features of the amplifier. I have highlighted important things and I advise students to go through these highlighted things here. What are the important features of the power amplifier? We know that power amplifier is the last stage of multi-stage amplifier, and previously you can see that previous stages were going to be the small signal amplifier, and input signal will go through multiple gains when it reaches the power amplifier, and the order of values voltage in power amplifier is going to be very large, that is in terms of few volts. So here we are focusing on the voltage levels used in the power amplifier, and next we are focusing on the swings that we come across in the power amplifier. Obviously the swing will be very large. Swing in case of small signal amplifier is very less. It's few volts here, as I showed example of sinusoidal. The peak to peak value itself is very small in case of small signal amplifier. Whereas in case of power amplifier, the peak to peak is going to be few volts. When I say few volts, it can go up to 50 volts also, 60 volts, 100 volts sometimes. Okay, that is the typical range of the output voltage range of power amplifiers. Swing is large, large current also flows. And one more important thing at this point I would like to specify, you might have studied H parameters. So though H parameters we haven't used in our course, but I want to specify here, H parameters are the method or analysis, uh, uh, these are the parameters used to analyze small signal amplifiers. Using H parameters, we can develop even equivalent circuits. H is nothing but hybrid parameters. We can use to analyze small signal amplifiers. Okay, using this hybrid parameters, we can easily understand the amplifier, how it works. Okay, in-depth study can be made using these H parameters. But the problem is we can't use same H parameters to analyze power amplifiers. Okay, you may ask a question, is it a drawback? No, this model itself has got some restrictions here, limitations I can say here. The main limitation of H parameters is these parameters cannot be used to analyze signals or voltages related to the power amplifier. So this is a drawback itself. How can you analyze still the power amplifier? So power amplifiers can be analyzed graphically. If you focused my very beginning classes, you have showed how BJT behaves. We have drawn the transfer characteristics graphically, and we have drawn the load line, and we have superimposed load line on the output characteristics. So we have analyzed even BJT, MOSFET graphically by drawing the load line. Similar procedure can be adopted even for power amplifiers, since H parameters are not a good tool to analyze power amplifier. Other techniques like graphical methods can be used to analyze the power amplifier. Graphical methods in the sense we need to draw the output characteristics and a load line. We need to superimpose load line on the output characteristics, and we should find the intersection points of load line and the output characteristics, and from that we can analyze how our amplifier behaves. That's the procedure adopted in case with reference to power amplifier. Okay. And next, fourth point talks about impedance matching. So impedance matching in an amplifier, especially in power amplifier, is very, very important. You might have studied impedance matching in the network theory, in the what is called as the power transfer theorem, maximum power transfer theorem. Let me call this as an MPT. Okay, when the source transfers, the maximum power to the load, it's possible only when the impedance matches. Suppose if I have a circuit here, there is a load here, there is a source here. According to maximum power transfer theorem, whenever the impedance here and impedance here at the output here, these impedances should match. Whenever the impedance matches, then there is a maximum power transfer from the source to the load. That's what maximum power transfer theorem says. And here with reference to power amplifiers, this is very important here. Since power amplifier drives the loudspeaker, and the loudspeaker has got very low impedance, and we must design a circuit prior to the power amplifier, the stages, such that its impedance matches. So what are circuits suitable for the power amplifier? Power amplifier is the last stage, and there we can use either common collector configuration or emitter follower circuit. These circuits which offers very low output impedance. Even see the power amplifier is driving the loudspeaker, which also demands lower impedance, and the circuit which used in the power amplifier should provide lower impedance. So therefore, then under such conditions, whenever the circuit power amplifier circuit provides lower output impedance, then there is going to be a maximum power transfer theorem. Maximum power transfer happens here. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. You can also employ common emitter circuit with a step down transformer also. Okay. And regarding power dissipation, as I told you, that this power amplifiers, the power amplifiers which are of large size and large power, it should handle, and we should have a proper heat sinks used in a transistor. Otherwise, transistors will burn out because large voltage and current that gets amplified with multiple stages comes to the power amplifier. Okay, so power amplifier is going to be the bulky in this case because it uses a different kind of components here. Another thing is power amplifiers are non-linear. You know that many devices like BJT, FET, they are non-linear in nature, and the chances of producing the harmonic distortion is very high. Okay, so we need to reduce this distortion, and though this distortion is not seen significantly in the small signal amplifier, but this becomes a larger value with reference to power amplifiers. When the huge harmonic distortion exists, then signal will get distorted. Okay, so distortion we have seen already in the feedback, so somehow we need to reduce this distortion. Okay, so we need to analyze the signal distortion and bring it to the small value. And last feature of this power amplifier is power amplifiers also can be called as audio amplifiers because they are mainly used in audio signal amplification. Okay. With that, I will stop it here. We have discussed in today's class two feedback amplifier circuits and their derivations, namely the input and output impedance. And later we have introduced uh, power amplifiers, output stages and power amplifiers. We introduced this, the power amplifiers and where it is used, and we also discussed important applications of power amplifiers. And finally, we covered some of the important features of power amplifiers. In the next class, we'll discuss the difference between small signal amplifier and the large signal amplifier, and we'll move on to the classification of power amplifiers. So with that, I will stop here, and if there are any questions, I'm glad to answer you.